What's up, Sooner Nation, and welcome to the first edition of our WhackoPreview Podcast. All things OU football every Friday as we get ready to go into the matchups of the weekend. I'm Steve Curtis, the voice behind Wacko Sooners. And today we've got plenty to go into. Another recruiting update. These kids, they just love OU and BV that much. So, of course, we're going to talk about it. The elite level that our defense has been playing at so far this season. And then finally, our predictions for every SEC matchup coming out of this weekend. We're going to break it all down right here on Wacko Sooners. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure to hit that bell button so you never miss an episode. And remember, you can always follow us on all of our socials, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter X, all at Wacko Sooners for live news updates, game time highlights, and some memes and reels every once in a while just to keep it fun, lighthearted like we like it here in Sooner Nation. So go hit those follows and make sure you're always in the Wacko loop. So first things first, recruiting. So as we mentioned, Wednesday during our Wacko Weekly podcast, Brayden Allen, 3-star wide receiver 2026 class out of Lafayette, Louisiana, had decommitted from Tulane and was entertaining recruitment efforts from Oklahoma and Colorado. And Wednesday evening, man, and this happened earlier this week too. With Michael McCreary, just as soon as we talk about it a little bit before they actually make their decision, we've talked about recruiting a bit, they commit the day that we've talked about it. Starting to think that I need to change our pod schedule to better mirror the recruiting updates so we can talk about it the day that they happen instead of waiting a couple days after the news is broken. But we got Brayden Allen as we were thinking we would after the decommitment from Tulane. Figured we were in a pretty good spot. Colorado definitely was there in the running with Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, just trying to get in there. But ultimately, Brayden Allen chose to come to Oklahoma. So we'll break him down here. 3-star wide receiver, 6'1", 170 pounds. Stunning player on the field. Really smooth and fluid mover. Great body control. He's not the most agile of guys, so separation isn't a giant forte. He's not a super speedster either. He's not a track star, if you will. Really good hands, though, really strong hands, big catch radius, massive wingspan, really dangerous in jump ball situations. And he's a willing blocker from what I can tell. And, of course, he can grow into that and improve there physically as he matures. And really excited to get this one. It was looking a little slim in the wide receiver breakdown so far already because we had Damari DeJean and Daniel Odom. We finally got our third one for 2026. And we'll see how we do with Jaden Pettit, see if we can get him to flip from Wisconsin and then get Davian Gross to flip from Florida if the season continues going the way that it has started. We will know a little bit more after Saturday in their matchup against Texas, which we will talk about here a little bit later. To break down a little bit more of the process with Brayden Allen the last couple of days since he decommitted from Tulane, final decision just came down OU, Colorado. Loved Emmett Jones, loved Brent Venables, loved the entire culture around OU. And remember, we'd been pushing after Brayden Allen for a while. We started looking at him earlier this spring. Emmett Jones pushed really hard after offering him in August, and then he committed to Tulane, and then, pushed a little bit harder. We got him to see what we're doing. So far this season, he liked what he saw, decommitted from Tulane, and now he's coming up to Norman next year. But I think Allen even said, yeah, here it is. Allen said, Oklahoma's just a place that anyone would want to be. Staff shows me I'm a priority and that I can get on the field early. 100%. Because we're playing so many young guys this year. We're playing Cortland Guillory starting at corner, Michael Fasusi starting left tackle, true freshman, Troy Blaylock at running back, true freshman. Really a lot of young guys that are just doing their job. Jaden Jackson, David Stone. They're sophomores, sure. They're not true freshmen, but they're still young. Jaden Jackson was a true freshman starter in week 1 last year. Ended up being freshman All-American. So, and I know we talked about this on Wednesday as well in Wacko Weekly. Just a matter of we're showing these younger recruits, come in and do your job, be the best you can be, and you have a chance to start. If you are the best, you're going to start. We don't care how old you are. So love to see that and how that's carrying over into recruiting, getting us better guys. Granted, he is a 3-star right now, but as I've already explained several times, I'm not a massive believer in the ratings out of high school. What can you do on the field when you're here in your collegiate years, especially when you get into years 2 and 3? What's that jump from year 1 to year 2 look like, and how veteran of a presence are you in year 3? As for some highlights from Brayden Allen about his visit, we had him come visit for the Auburn game, showed the dynamic or the diversity, I guess, of targets when it came to our wide receivers, because you saw Isaiah Satania, Deion Burks, Keontae Lewis, Ivan Carrion, Zion Kearney a little bit, Torrey Blaylock with a couple catches, I believe. Javante Barnes with some targets too, Jaron Cannick. Just such diversity of pass catchers. If you come to play receiver at Oklahoma, you're going to get touches. You're going to get a chance to play. And just make sure you're one of those consistent guys and you can get more of it. But it's almost a guarantee at Oklahoma. If you're one of the pass catching positions, you are going to touch the ball. We're not going to lock in on any one guy. One guy might have a great day this week, but the next week it's going to be somebody else. And we've seen that. We've had a different leading receiver the first 3 games, and then we had Isaiah Satania double up, if I'm not mistaken. So in Temple and then Auburn, he doubled up being our best producer when it comes to receiving yards. And then OU, we were able to land Brayden Allen just with the genuine love from staff, trusting Emmett Jones to develop him pretty quickly and early playing time. All that stuff we've talked about so much whenever we've done our little recruiting updates. But very excited about this prospect. Right now, when it comes to his ranking status, yeah, he's a 3-star, but could bump up to a 4-star by the end of the year. It is his senior year. He's showing a lot more suddenness in showing up on the field, and really could improve his recruiting rankings, if you will. But again, I don't really think that matters. He spent a lot of time with Bo Bentley over the weekend at the Auburn visit. And of course, spending time with the quarterback that you're going to be playing with is in your recruiting class, and seeing how Bo's been doing, how he did last year, which is what caught Oklahoma's attention, and then seeing how he's doing so far this season, knowing that, this is my guy. This is my QB right here. And great signal caller, going to be great. So, of course, that's also going to make the prospect of coming to Oklahoma far more attractive. Probably a good comparison I could come up with would be Juaquin Iglesias at wide receiver. Just a solid comparison, I think. But, not the most flashy of guys, not a Hollywood Brown or CD Lamb, just very consistent, very solid all the way around. And then, of course, we already talked a little bit about Davian Gross and Jaden Pettit in terms of, can we see if we can get some more wide receiver flips? Because ultimately, we don't need that many more. I don't think we don't necessarily need them. It would be nice to have more weapons in the war chest. It would be nice. But right now, the only receivers we're definitely saying goodbye to after 2025 would be Deion Burks and Keontae Lewis. We'd still have Zion Kearney, who's coming along nicely, Ivan Carrion, Isaiah Satania most likely. Just a solid group of guys. I think it would be fantastic if we could somehow figure out how to get Jaron Cannick a 5th year, get him to petition it and somehow win it. That would be great. I'd love to see that because I love Jaron so much. But the moral of the story, we don't need tons of new receivers this cycle because for the most part, we're going to keep most of them, which is great. So we don't need tons of them, but it would just be nice to stack up, get those skill positions, get good guys those skill positions, because we saw last year what happened when the entire wide receiver room went out with injury, or at least the front 6-7 guys. And no, that's not to go with but the first several wide receivers going out with injuries, it would just be good to stack up a bit on depth there at that position, because we've seen what happens when you lose out on it. All right, that's going to do it for recruiting. Defense. Man, this defense is good. Growing up as an Oklahoma fan, I like most of us, remember the good old days. Baker, Kyler, Jalen, Spencer, Caleb. Those guys just balling out. Just throwing for obnoxious amounts. And then the defense couldn't stop anything. The defense was a wet paper bag that had a rock dropped into it. Just fell out the bottom. And looking at the Auburn game last week and a half ago, looking at the Auburn game, you have a vintage Lincoln Riley defense, or heck, an even late era Bob Stoops defense. we find a way to lose that game. Because we gave the ball back to Auburn with about 4.5 minutes left on the clock. They had a couple runs for a first down, then it was called back on a penalty. Then on a hold, I believe. Then false start, lost another 5 yards. And then back-to-back sacks to close out the game. Oklahoma defense is under late era Bob Stoops and then always under Lincoln Riley. Would have found a way to lose that game. You would not have felt confident in your defense going out there and saying, okay, we've got 4.5 minutes left on the clock. Oh yeah, no problem. We'll stop them. I had no doubts when this defense in 2025 took the field with that amount of time left on the clock. I had no doubts. I knew we were going to do it. Now, that also has to do with who was playing quarterback for Auburn. But we've talked about that enough last week and also earlier this week on the Wacko Review. But, man, this defense is good. And I won't even just say that they're good. Let's give you some numbers from last year, 2024, and then we'll go over numbers this year. Now, mind you, 2024 had a terrible offense and was not complimentary football in any way, shape, or form. So 2024 allowed 318.2 total yards per game. So that was 6th in the SEC, 19th nationally. 203.2 passing yards per game, 7th in the SEC, 43rd nationally. 115 rush yards per game last year, 5th in the SEC, 24th nationally, and then 21.5 points per game, 9th in the SEC, 29th nationally. Those are 2024 stats in which the defense was playing most of the game and exhausted. Now, we've only been through the first 5 weeks of the season. We're going into week 6. So, of course, the stats aren't going to be as indicative of how good this defense is over the course of a season. But looking at it so far, through the first 4 games that Oklahoma's played, we've got 235 tackles, 16 sacks for 80 yards, 12 hurries, 37 TFLs, 14 pass breakups, and then the one mulligan of the defense, no turnovers. We are patiently waiting, like an expectant father in the waiting room in the hospital. Is it a boy? Is it a girl? No. BV is sitting there that nervous. Is it a fumble? Is it an interception? Which one is it? And we still haven't had one yet. And I feel terrible for Brent. I remember, I think it was after the Temple game, he was asked about the turnovers. He said, 0 turnovers. How disgusting is that? Yeah, buddy. We know. We want to see it too. We can't wait. So those are just raw numbers there that I just gave you before going off on my no turnovers tangent. But let's go through some rankings of OU's defense. So, with an average of 4 sacks per game, Oklahoma is ranked first in the nation, first in the SEC in sacks per game. First nationally and first in the SEC in third down efficiency, only allowing third down conversion 17.9% of the time. 3 total touchdowns allowed so far in the season. That's second nationally, first in the SEC. 207.5 total yards per game allowed, second nationally, second in the SEC. 9.3 TFLs per game. That's third in the nation. I think that's first in the SEC. I was not able to find numbers to corroborate that at the time that we were putting this outline together. And then third nationally, second in the SEC in points allowed per game with an average of 9. So, sacks per game were first. Third down efficiency were first. Total touchdowns allowed were first. No, we're second. We're second in total touchdowns allowed, excuse me. Total yards per game were second. TFLs were third. And points allowed were third. That's just nationally. So in all those categories, we are a top 3 defense. Oh, but Steve, OU played Illinois State and Temple. Okay, we also played Michigan and Auburn. I don't want to hear squat about Michigan's bad. Michigan is winning at least 9 games this year. I'm confident of that at least. And their rushing attack is good. Their rush attack with Justice Haynes is good. Bryce Underwood will improve drastically as the season progresses. Auburn. was sitting on a mountain of our rush attack is great. And they do have a great rushing attack. They absolutely do. They ran amok all over everybody that they've played so far. They did a decent job against Texas A&M. Texas A&M was just really able to shut down their passing attack. And then Auburn just tried to stick with the run too much too early and got stuffed there. And Auburn's not a two-dimensional team really, but their rushing attack, when it's firing, and you're getting a little bit in the pass game to open up the run as well, it's solid. Their rushing attack is good. The Auburn defense is good. Now that kind of goes into OU offense, which we're not talking about the offense today. But Auburn's rushing attack is good. Michigan's rushing attack is good. OU shut both of those down. Gave up one explosive play each. This Oklahoma defense is legit. This Oklahoma defensive line is a masterpiece. It is a work of art that I've not seen in my lifetime. I'm 22. And I cannot recall an OU defense, except maybe for when I was a small child, and at that point I was not a giant Oklahoma fan, nor would I have understood what I was looking at, really, at age 4 and 5, back in the late 2000s, going into the BCS against Florida. But this defense has Brent Venables all over it. This is why we hired him. And it's showing out. It's showing up. It's doing what it needs to do. This was the vision of a defense that Brent promised us when he arrived. This was the vision. He's kept his side of the bargain in that respect. We still need to see wins, more wins. We need to see playoff appearances. We should be in contention for national titles. That is Oklahoma tradition. And Brent knows Oklahoma tradition well enough to get us there. But the moral of the story here, defense is what it's supposed to be. Defense is doing exactly what we hired Brent to bring it to do, or make it do, or create it, whatever you want to call it. This defense will win us games. This defense will keep us in every single game that we play. Every single one. And the offense this year is light years ahead of last year's. Far more competitive, far more complimentary. So we have a real shot. Because we have a solid defense now. We have a great defense. We have a top 5 defense in the nation. We are leading in all these categories. Sacks, third down efficiency, total touchdowns allowed, you name it. We're dominating on defense. That's with a walk-on there at linebacker. That's with a true freshman at corner. That's with 2 sophomores taking a lot of the snaps on the defensive line. And an absolute monster at edge rusher with 3 other great ones right behind him on the other side. This defense, like the whole thing, the whole package. And we are going to go down the list, okay? R. Mason Thomas, stud. Taylor Wine, stud. Marvin Jones Jr., stud. PJ Adebaware, stud. Those guys at edge are fantastic. That pass rush is insane. 10 sacks against Auburn. 10 sacks. Now, we won't get that many against Kent State, and that's just because I don't think we'll have to push that hard to do that. I don't think we're dialing up play calls on defense to go and kill the quarterback. I think we're going to go to the basics, do our job, get the starters in for a little bit, get some good reps. Take him out, let the young guys go. And Danny Okoye, would love to see that there at edge rusher on Saturday. Then you got your defensive tackles like Grayson Halton, Dom Williams, Jaden Jackson, David Stone. Love those guys. Every single one of them, a monster. G-Baby with that next to last sack of the Auburn game where he was on Auburn's left tackle and he comes around, or the left guard, the left tackle, and he just comes all the way around and just pummels Jackson Arnold. Work of art. And that game-saving safety he got against Houston in 2024, huge deal. Linebackers, Kip Lewis, Kobe McKenzie, Owen Heineke, the walk-on, absolute studs. Kendall Daniels, the Oklahoma State transfer. Dude finally picked the winning side. And OSU fans, you can pipe down. No one cares that you won 2 of the last 3. The record's still 91-20, and Mike Gundy sold his soul for that 2023 Bedlam win. Kendall Daniels, that hit on Haynes in the Michigan game, I was up in the student section. I could hear that. That was loud. That was loud. And the whoo as he got hit. Then also linebacker Samio Masigo. Stud. Looked great against Auburn last week. Then our corners, which we talked a lot about them. Wacko Weekly on Wednesday. Cortland Guillory, Gentry Williams. Eli Bowen, KD 15, Kendall Dolby. And then Devon Jordan. Love all those guys. They're all great at what they do. Kendall Dolby's coming back fine from his leg break last year. Looking good. Getting back into the rhythm slowly. I bet you will see more of him in Texas when we need a little bit of a bigger corner. A little bit more experience too. Then over at safety, further in the secondary, you got RJ, Robert Spears-Jennings, Peyton Bowen, Michael Boganowski, the headhunter. I love the heat that kid plays with. Oh my gosh, he comes flying in, boom, trying to take your head off every time. And then Reggie Powers III. Absolute studs on that defense. And we'll get into Texas Hate Week next week. We'll get into that. We'll talk plenty about what we're going to look like against Texas. But these guys are going to feast on Arch Manning. That Texas O-line is good, sure. The receivers are all right. The running backs are all right. The offense around Arch is solid. But Arch is the weak link. And BV, with how much crap he gave Jackson Arnold when it came to just on the field, because BV would never give anybody crap off the field, not really anyways. But how much trouble he gave Jackson Arnold with defensive looks against Auburn the other week. Arch Manning's going to get feasted upon. Will he get some breaks? Maybe, probably. But our defense is going to have fun playing Texas. It's going to be fun. I can't wait for next Saturday there at the Cotton Bowl in Dallas. I can't wait. That's my favorite, probably my favorite day of the year. But I'm getting ahead of myself. It's a week. It's a week away. We'll talk about it more next week in our review weekly and our preview, because next week is Texas Hate Week. All right, defensive side. Time to get into our SEC picks of the week. So we've got, I think it's 5 SEC matchups this week. Yeah, not a whole lot. A lot of people are on buys this week coming into week 6. So first off, we got Kentucky at Georgia. The current spread right now is Georgia minus 20.5. My thoughts on that, Georgia's run game looked good against Alabama. Really, really solid. I think they had right at 227 rush yards against Alabama. One thing that concerns me, if I were a Georgia fan, their defense was very sloppy against Alabama. Just sloppy on the basics. Terrible tackling. Terrible third down efficiency. Alabama went 13 of 19 on third down. That did not look good. Now, granted, Alabama is honestly really solid this year. Ty Simpson is a beast, and we'll talk about him in a little bit too. But Georgia's defense needs to step it up. Now, of course, they're playing Kentucky, and that's no disrespect on Kentucky either. Mark Stoops is a tough guy, though. We love the Stoops family in Norman. But as for the rest of Georgia, I want to see more from Gunnar Stockton in that wide receiver unit. You brought in Branch with the very intention of adding that weapon into your tool belt. And Gunnar Stockton had, 130 yards last week against Alabama? I want to see more there. I want to see more out of the Georgia passing game. Because Gunnar Stockton looked great there in the fourth quarter against Tennessee. Dude went nuts. I want to see more of that if I'm a Georgia fan. I do have Georgia to win. And I have them to cover. My prediction at this moment in time is 38-13. I think Kentucky will get a couple lucky breaks. Now, having said that, remember last year, Kentucky took it right down to the wire. But I've got Georgia taking the dub on this one, especially because it is at home there at Sanford Stadium. All right, next up, Mississippi State at Texas A&M. They're at Kyle Field. A&M is the favorite by 14.5. Marcel Reed looked pretty solid against that tough Auburn defense last week. He went 15 for 22, 207 yards. Moss, that A&M running back, against Auburn, he had 21 carries, 139 yards, and a touchdown. Mississippi State's been looking good this year, honestly. I was not expecting them to beat Arizona State. I was not expecting them to go toe-to-toe with Tennessee and take it to overtime. I was not expecting that at all. I love Jeff Lebby, OU offensive coordinator, 2022-2023. Love him. Bummed when he left, but he had to do what he had to do, and it's worked out for us now, I think, and it's working out for him as well, clearly, based on just how much better Mississippi State looks in his second year as opposed to his first year. Blake Shapin's his guy. Fluff Bothwell, Mississippi State running back. Against Tennessee, he had 23 carries, 134 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think this will be a pretty solid matchup. I do think that Texas A&M defense will eventually overwhelm Mississippi State's offense. I've been wrong before, and I'd be okay to be wrong with this one again. I just think that at home, at Kyle Field, with Texas A&M being as high as they are right now, my money's on Texas A&M 31-17 is my current prediction for that. Texas at Florida. Texas is current favorite per ESPN, 6.5 point favorite. I'm actually going to be at this game, and I'm looking forward to it. So, good friend of mine growing up, Florida fan. I hate Texas with a burning passion. Hell yeah. But also went to high school down in Florida, so figured I'd go home for the weekend and then also go up to Gville, go to the swamp, and see what the Gators have waiting for Arch Manning. Now, this game, I think, is going to be one of the two most interesting matchups on the weekend. Because I think it's ultimately going to be a question of which team is the better team regardless of quarterback. Which overall unit is better. Not which team is good and then has the better quarterback. Like we're going to see in plenty of other games this year. I think we may see that in Red River next week. Who's going to be the better quarterback? Because Texas' offense has been disappointing this year. Oklahoma's offense has been solid. In both in the two defenses there, Oklahoma and Texas defense are the top two defenses in the SEC. So I think Red River is going to be a quarterback shootout. But again, we'll talk about that next week. And I need to stay on track here. So again, Texas at Florida. Quarterback play here is going to set. DJ Lagway and Arch Manning are going to set quarterback play back by about 100 years on Saturday. They're in the swamp. I think this is going to be an absolute mess. It's going to be an absolute defensive dogfight just because the quarterbacks are going to be having tons of trouble. Billy Napier on the way out. Not the best play caller I've ever seen. And I get that from my Florida buddy. They do not like Billy over there. So, of course, Florida fans want to win, but at the same time, it's like, what do we got to do to get Billy out of here? So, yeah. But as for the degeneracy of the quarterback play, Arch Manning so far this year, 65 of 106, 888 passing yards, 9 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. DJ Lagway, 93 of 123, 690 pass yards, 5 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 5 of which against LSU, and LSU should have whooped Florida by way more with all those turnovers, but they didn't. So that's just proof that LSU isn't that great either. But yeah, both have good defenses. Both Florida and Texas have good defenses. The offenses have been terrible so far this season. And, I mean, Texas was just struggling against Ohio State. And one could argue Ohio State was struggling against Texas. I ultimately don't think Ohio State's going to be that good. I think they're great. I don't think they're going to continue being number one team in the country as good as everyone's predicting them to be. Because we also saw UTEP look decent against Texas. We saw San Jose State score 10, if I'm not mistaken, against the Texas defense. You shouldn't be doing that. Texas defense is the second in the SEC. You shouldn't be doing that. You should not be giving up 10 points to San Jose State or UTEP. Now, Texas did wake up for the Sam Houston game after a slow start. They did come out. Arch did his weird flex things and all that on Sam Houston guys and the Sam Houston buddies. They fired right back, playing into it. Yeah, why are you flexing on us, man? And Archie and Arch's dad and his uncles, they all called Arch like, dude, what are you doing? You're supposed to be whooping these guys. What's going on here? Show yourself to be at the level that everyone expects you to be at and the level that you should be at given where you're playing and the kind of resources you've had at your disposal. But I honestly think Florida's home field advantage here in the Swamp is going to be huge because Texas is beatable for Florida. Absolutely, they're beatable. I think that Arch is going to make more critical mistakes than DJ Lagway. Ultimately, I'm taking Florida to win this one. In a close game, I think it's going to be 16-13 for Florida to win the game in the Swamp. All right, next up, probably the SEC matchup that I'm most excited about. Vandy is going to T-Town. They are going to Alabama, with Alabama as a 10.5-point favorite coming up on Saturday. So Ty Simpson, told you we'd come back around to him. Ty Simpson had 276 pass yards and 2 passing touchdowns and a singular rushing touchdown against Georgia last week. Alabama's offense is solid. It's far more consistent than it was last year. That first game against Florida State, yeah, it looked like Alabama 2024. But they've showed up since then. And going into Athens, Georgia, and putting the belt on Kirby Smart and his defense, and just being able to sit back quietly in the second half and not have to go do anything. I'm an Alabama believer. I think Kalen DeBoer's got something pretty good going on there in Tuscaloosa. Their rush attack's okay. They had 119 rush yards against Georgia. I have no shame in saying, even though I am also on the Vandy wagon, I think Vandy's D-line is going to be much easier for Alabama to combat than Georgia's. So I expect Alabama to run a decent bit on Saturday against Vandy. Vandy's not sneaking up on anybody anymore. Clark Lee has turned that into I've heard a lot of people call Vandy a bunch of terrorists or comparing it to certain countries with ties to terrorism or the home of many a terrorist, I suppose. And I just laugh at that because, they're like the freaking Mongols. They stormed out of nowhere and took the world by surprise last year. And this year they are 4-0 and they're looking good. Diego Pavia is a dog, all right? He's gone 94 for 126, 1,200 pass yards, 13 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He's had 48 carries for 294 rush yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Now, while Vandy's not sneaking up on anyone anymore, I would not be shocked if Vandy somehow manages to go and win this in Tuscaloosa. I think Tuscaloosa is going to be hostile to Vanderbilt. I think this is a rivalry in the making, honestly, after last year and how Vandy just manhandled Alabama on both lines of scrimmage. I remember watching that and just sitting there, and I looked at the people I was watching with, and I'm like, you'd think Alabama would eventually just be able to out-physical them with the kind of talent discrepancy, but they didn't. Vandy went and took the lead. I'm high on Vandy. I think they could win this. I mean, they went to Virginia Tech and whooped Virginia Tech. They put up 300-plus yards in the second half. And South Carolina had trouble beating Virginia Tech at a neutral site. And then Vandy goes to South Carolina and whoops South Carolina. I don't care that Lenora Sellers was not in the game, or for most of the game. You still have a talented SEC roster. And Vandy comes to your house and trashes you. They put you through the ringer at your crib. And then Vandy goes and hangs 70 on Georgia State. I don't care that it's Georgia State. I cannot recall a singular event where Vandy has put that many points on anybody. Then they went 55-35 against Utah State last week. But they were much better in the second half. It was a slow start, but they looked much better in the second half, came out swinging on offense, and took out the W. I'm high on Vandy. I do have Alabama winning this one. I do expect them to cover. I right now have it at 34-24. I think home field advantage and revenge factor is a massive point here. But at the same time, we have seen Vandy go on the road to South Carolina. Williams-Brice, and at that point, hostile environment. South Carolina's high on it. Oh, yeah, we're going to go get them. We're going to go dominate. And Vandy overcame the noise. So if Vandy starts hot, I could see this turning very quickly. And finally, we had 6 SEC matchups that I goofed on. Well, this is an SEC team in a matchup. This is not an SEC conference matchup. We got Oklahoma versus Kent State. Of course, the only one that we all care about. Oklahoma's favored 44.5 points. We're going to cover that. Michael Hawkins Jr. at starter, not worried. Great experience from last year. Dynamic offense, dynamic player, good quarterback-friendly system, healthy roster. And it's Kent State. We're going to have the ones practicing for a bit. I expect we'll leave. I still want to see our starting running backs go crazy on Saturday. I want to see Michael Hawkins in for the whole game. I want him to get comfortable. And then get the 2s and the 3s at wide receiver some reps. Maybe get Taylor Tatum out there at running back a little bit. Try to see what's going on. Kent State's genuinely one of the worst programs in college football right now. They took an L at Texas Tech, 62-14. L at Florida State, 66-10. And then an L versus Buffalo, 31-28. They've got 816 total pass yards, 346 rush, 11 sacks received so far this season. Oklahoma's defense is going to dominate. It's going to do its job. It's not going to go crazy like we did against Auburn. We're just going to do what we got to do. I have Oklahoma winning 55-0. And that'll put us at 5-0 going into the Cotton Bowl next week as we match up against Texas, who may be 3-2 coming into that game with a below average offensive performance or below expectation performance. Well, Sooner Nation, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Wacko Preview Podcast, where we break down all things OU football every Friday as we go into the matchups of the weekend. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell button so you never miss an episode. Remember, go follow us on all of our socials, okay? Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter X, all at Wacko Sooners for live news updates, game time highlights, and a couple memes and funny reels to keep it lighthearted and fun like we like it here at Sooner Nation. So go hit those follows. Make sure you're always in the Wacko loop. Boomer! Sooner.